All right, welcome back. Let's talk about Daddy Freeze. Daddy Freeze breaks down. I haven't seen my kids in 10 days. What are we talking about here?
ó ṣorí kìdìgbà bíi brazil aṣẹ́wó ó wá sórí láì mi ó sọ̀sọ̀kúsọ já dànù jẹ́ rapture wèrè dànù where you dey rapture dànù kúrò lórí live mi òpò ní òṣì.
All right, that was Daddy Freeze talking to me once upon a time. He has since, shout out to Mr. Bio, he has since unblocked me, but Daddy Freeze is my person. But anyway, let's talk about Daddy Freeze. 10 years, no UGs, no access to your own children. And then the world turns around and say you deserve it. I mean, they judge you from the outside. But tell me, how do you punish a person for silence, right? Is there a good justifiable reason to be silent in this regard? I have my personal take, but I have a few questions. Okay, I have a few questions because oftentimes these stories that we cover here is not about the main character. In this case, Daddy Freeze. It's about me and you. It's about how do we handle this kind of situations if we find ourselves in this very dicey situation, right? Um, the reality is that broken people, they weaponize pain, you know, sometimes in the form of their children. And yes, they will justify the bullshit. There's more than enough, even sometimes evidence around to justify the bullshit. That's why people will talk.
We go explain because no evidence.
Yeah, people will justify the BS. It's the reality of our experience as human beings because of our emotions. Emotions no be anybody's mate. Emotions no be our mate. You and I don't know how we would act if we find ourselves in a space where we feel like the world is absolutely unfair to us. So now, with everything I just said, is that if he's justified, because he made mention of, at one point he wasn't allowed to see his kids because there was an ultimatum that he had to pay school fees. But then he also admitted that he did not have the money at the time. He's also admitted that he was very young at the time. He's admitted to coconut head pride at the time, although the way he usually admits, he always make it all inclusive. I think if you're admitting to something like that, you don't need to make it all inclusive. Just own your own part. For every time you make it all inclusive, you are basically giving away your power to the factors you can't really control, aka other human beings, right? People are gonna act the way they're gonna act. You have no reason. Sorry, you don't know why they acted the way they acted. The only thing you know is the face of their life where you got involved after they became an adult, but you have no idea is what I was looking for. You have no idea what kind of trauma they bring into the table, hidden trauma responses that to you just feel like this person is attacking you and they're coming at you. They're using your children, they're weaponizing your children. Some may say a person who stopped paying school fees is irresponsible. It's easy to judge from that standpoint. On the surface level, everything else being equal, you're absolutely correct. But sometimes emotional exhaustion is a real thing. Maybe you haven't seen it at that level where you don't have access to your kids, but you've seen it even between you and your siblings. Sometimes you just want to change rooms. You want to move to another room, and some people might look at that act and they say you're a coward. Just face it. And you might be gauging things and say, hey, I know my emotional capacity here. I don't have it. So is it possible that good men can walk away from logic? Happens all the time. Happens more than we like to admit. Why? Because we're trying to maintain a certain emotional equilibrium. We're looking for a safe space. And no, you're right. If you look at it at the surface level, especially if you're standing on the outside, you might look at it and even judge me, rightfully so. You're just a human being too. You're operating from your own emotions. You're judging me and you don't even know me like that. Yeah. Or maybe both sides, they become addicted to being right. The obsession with being right. Yes, anti-seductive behavior, right? We're trying to be right. We're trying to feel some right here, but what happens? What happens to your relationships? They get tampered with. But yes, negatively. Okay, so this whole thing we call love, that's why people sometimes say love is not enough. It turns into a scoreboard, right? Everybody's trying to compete. I'm right, you're right, I'm right, I'm right. There are children in between, and then the children becomes collateral. Yeah, and they have to deal with that somewhere in the later on in their life. Okay, society is also responsible, but me and you, we can't afford to be blaming society. We have to look at what we have, the cards we've been dealt, and see what we can do with that. Okay, so yes, women may be allowed to turn pain into narrative and applause in this time and age. Seemingly, I say seemingly because sometimes we haven't really assessed that properly, because you have to assess it case by case by case. Yes, it might look like that, but I want to know what's your personal opinion about this. Forgiveness, should it depend on what society says, right? People are very quick to say forgiveness is for you, just do it for you, right? Is it that simple? Right? Should forgiveness depend on who started the war? And how do we determine who started the war? Is it Daddy Freeze's ex or himself? From everything we can see right now, right? Hold on, my nose is running again. I've been better, by the way, but from everything we can see, it seems like he's the villain, right? Because he talks a lot. When you talk a lot, especially if that's what you do for a living.
We go explain because no evidence.
Yeah, it might you because we tend to nitpick what aspect he will be guilty. We're looking for he should serve, right? We're looking for that angle. But the reality is we don't really know. The reality is that every relationship at some point will collapse based off of a void somewhere. A void that maybe that you can relate to maybe the six basic needs: certainty, right? Security, a sense of security, connection, significance. If there's no connection, sometimes we look around and we just blame the closest thing, the partner, right? And whenever you blame your partner, if there are children involved, you're indirectly hurting yourself. You're shooting yourself on the legs. So when certainty, connection, and significance die, when you don't feel like the other person values you, we tend to overreact negatively to that, and then of course pride will creep in, and then of course you have everybody will be operating from a place of fear, and you attract what you fear the most. Whatever that fear is, you create more of it. Fear of being the one who bends first, because you can't stand the unfairness, because you forgot that this was a person you're having sex with and you created children. What would you do if fighting for your children mean fighting a wall of bitterness? What would you do? Would you keep swinging, or accept that sometimes the fight itself is actually the closure you're looking for? Relax, chill. Here's the truth: in love and war, all is still fair. Okay, and in loss, you kind of give what you can. Life is a journey. We're all in a journey, but at some point you have to get to a space where you can trust the law of reciprocity, meaning you're willing to give even when it seems like it's not being reciprocated. But it's usually from a place of lack of trust. Lack of trust of what? Of the law of reciprocity, because what goes around comes around. That's the reality. That's a principle of life. But in all of that, you just want to make sure you self-preserve. You want to make sure you're pouring not from an empty cup, you're pouring from a place of abundance, always working on self. Okay, always working on. But sometimes fighting for love doesn't mean you win, at least not in the way it looks, right? Not in the way it looks. It just means you've refused to die emotionally. Okay, but let me know what your thoughts are about Daddy Freeze. Do you believe his side of the story? Do you need to wait for the other side of the story? Abi, nah, Daddy Freeze is guilty. What do you think? I would like to know what you think. What's going on, Natu? How you doing, Natu? Good to see you. Hit the like button, share, subscribe, turn up your notifications so you're notified when we go live, when we drop videos. You're missing the videos out, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you're subscribed, notified. Make sure you're checking back, because if you have been engaging other stuff while I'm not around, then you will miss out big time. Okay, but let me know what you think about Daddy Freeze, and we've got more to cover. I'll be right back. This is Ola, Man of Prestige, your favorite relationship and marriage coach. If you enjoyed this, smash that like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs it. Be a part of the Prestige family. My wife Lola and I have written 2 powerful books, Get My Marriage Back and Number One Red Flag. Yours free at manofprestige.com. For personal coaching, send me a WhatsApp request for consultation to +1 732 305 8577. Stay tuned for more. Your journey to love and prestige starts here.